So here's a lesson on matrices, an introduction to matrices, some basic information that you might want to be aware of. First of all, what is a matrix? A matrix is similar to a spreadsheet. It's information or data that is arranged in rows or columns. So for example, I have this matrix A, which has this information arranged here. It actually has 2 rows and 2 columns. So this is what we call a 2 by 2 matrix. Similarly, we have matrix B with 2 rows, 2 columns, and of course it could be any number of rows and columns. There are some basic operations that we're going to be performing on matrices. For example, finding the sum of 2 matrices. So if I have this matrix A with these elements in it, it's simply just adding the numbers in the corresponding positions. For example, top left with top left, the answer is going to go up here, so I would get 4 for that. Top right with top right is added, and that answer goes here. Bottom left with bottom left, that answer goes there. Bottom right with bottom right, answer goes here. So this is pretty straightforward and common sense in terms of addition, and the same would be true for subtraction. We would subtract values in the same positions, and those answers go in the same position that we're working on. Another thing that you must be able to do with matrices is to multiply by a scalar value. So let's say I have matrix A, and I want to multiply matrix A by, say, -3. It's simply taking -3 and distributing it to each value, each element inside the matrix. So it'd be -3 times 3, which goes here. -3 times 4, that value goes there. -3 times 5 goes here. -3 times 6, that answer goes there. And that's also very simple and straightforward. This is what we call scalar multiplication of matrices. A third thing that you want to be able to do is to multiply one matrix by another matrix. So multiplying 2 matrices. And you can only multiply 2 matrices if the column in matrix A, the first matrix, equals the rows, or the rows in the second matrix B. So if I have 2 matrices A and B, and this represents the rows and columns for A, rows and columns for B, I can only multiply A times B if the column in matrix A matches the row number in matrix B. If those 2 values are the same, I can multiply that matrix, and the answer, the product, is always an R by C matrix. So let's say that this was 2 and that's 3. The answer is going to be a 2 by 3 matrix. Here's an actually example. If I have a matrix A that is a 3 by 4, in other words, it's 3 rows by 4 columns, and that would look something like that. This matrix has 3 rows and 4 columns. I can multiply that by another matrix that has 4 rows and 2 columns. So 4 rows would be with 2 columns. So this matrix has 4 rows and 2 columns. And it means I can take this matrix and multiply it by this matrix to get an answer, because the number of columns in this matrix, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, is the same as the number of rows in the other one. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what is my answer going to be? If I multiply a 3 by 4 by a 4 by 2, the answer is going to be a 3 by 2 product. All right? Now, let's look at an actual example that has real numbers in it. So if I'm multiplying this 2 by 2 matrix by another 2 by 2 matrix, so I have 2 rows in 2 columns, so it's a 2 by 2, and I'm also multiplying it by another 2 rows with 2 columns. So the number of columns here matches the number of rows here, so we can multiply them, and the answer is also going to be a 2 by 2. When we multiply matrices, we simply multiply the rows by the columns. So for example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this row and I'm going to multiply it by this column, right? And the answer is going to go right here in the top left, okay? Then I'm going to take this row again and also multiply it by this column, and the answer is going to go up here. So for the first one, I would take 6 times -5 plus -3 times 3, and that answer is going to go right there. Whereas over here, I'm going to take this row times that column. So I'm going to do 6 times -4. I'm going to add -3 times -3. And that answer is going to go there. And this is what? -30 minus 9, which is -39. And this is what? -24. -24 minus 9, which is -33. So that value goes there, that value goes there. And then I need to get the other answers down here. So now I go down to this row. I'm now going to multiply this row by this column. And that gives me what? -10 times -5. I'm going to add -2 times 3. And the answer is going to go here. And then lastly, I'm going to take this row times this column. And the answer is going to go here. So I'm going to do -10 times -4 plus -2 times 3, and the answer is going to go here. Let's simplify this. This is what? 50 minus 6. That's 44. And this is what? 40 minus 6, which is 34. So my resulting answer is -39, -33, 44, 34. When I take this 2 by 2 matrix and multiply it by this 2 by 2, my answer is a 2 by 2 matrix. I hope this brief introduction to matrices is of some help to you.